Hi, Debbie.
Hi, Tim.
How you feeling? You don't look like you're too sick. How are you feeling?
I feel okay. I'm not over it. Ira and I we came home from this trip with some symptoms, and so we took tests, and lo and behold,
Yeah.
it was COVID.
Yeah.
But anyway, here we are, staying home, and it'll pass.
So, Tim Ash, I think he contacted you about not being with us.
Who are you talking to?
Tim Ash will not be with us at the meeting today. You knew that or did not?
I didn't know it.
So
yeah, he emailed me, Tim.
And told you that he is not, right?
Yeah, he said he might be out. He said he wasn't feeling good and they probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah. He talked to me about that and said, yeah, pretty much the same thing. And kind of expected us not to have him here. So when he talked with me on the phone, Debbie, the issue was the legislative letter report, and who was going to present that, and I mean, we'll just do what we can do, and
that's a good question, Tim. I don't feel totally up on that letter to report on it. I did read it. I mean, we were gone for 2 weeks and we were not really focusing too much on anything but the trip.
So maybe we'll ask Allison.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm sure Allison would do a good job.
All right, we're just having this kind of business chat between the two of us, and we'll wait for the rest of the board, not chat too much, as I want to chat anyway, but we'll wait. It looks like we still have 5 more minutes before everybody.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll just see if I can print the letter out too, because I did read it. So
okay,
I'll just go do that.
Hi.
Hi, Alyssa.
Share screen. Go down up there.
Someone has a unmuted microphone going on, so
That's me.
oh, okay, Gardner.
I don't know how to get the picture on
So-
share screen.
So Alyssa, I was,
She's not on either.
this is kind of just business again between us. I was talking with Laura Montagna the other day, and I thought it might be nice for the 3 of us to get together for lunch sometime
I
next
think that sounds
Everything.
awesome.
with the 3 of us, because we are the powerful leaders of the board, and we should we should, make our strategy to take over, a little more clear.
Okay. As the trio of power, we will unite.
Yeah, we need a name. I don't know what it is yet, but we'll work on it. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll leave that to you, maybe to find a good place in your neck of the woods, but we'll email and call and set that up. Okay.
Okay. Did you hear that, Laura?
I was just talking about us having lunch, the three of us sometime and developing our own secret code for our plans to take over,
We can develop our sign language of our own when things are going certain ways.
Yeah.
Got
This
it.
means this.
Yeah.
This means this.
This means
This-
stop.
Oh,
And this, what did we know?
This means too many drugs.
Wait, this
Yeah.
is being recorded, y'all.
Oh,
Yeah, this is
Oh.
recorded. The public's going to see this.
all right, I'm muting. I'm going on mute.
Okay, no more talk. Whoops.
Welcome, everybody, to the monthly meeting of the Behavioral Health Board of Humboldt County. We are the official advisory board for the Board of Supervisors on areas of mental health, behavioral health, substance abuse disorders. This is a public meeting. We start at 12:15, try to end at 2:15, try to keep to that schedule. Everyone is invited. It is a public meeting from the Brown Act. You're invited to make comments, particularly in the early time. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get there, but also during other times when there are special presentations or action items. I guess the one thing I wanted to say is that we have a lot on our agenda, and the main thing will be the public report of the Mental Health Services Act update. And that's, we are hosting it as a behavioral health board. As such, it is not our part of the meeting. So the public is invited in a different way to participate than they would with normal behavioral health board proceedings. This is being recorded, and if that makes you really uncomfortable when you want to share, particularly members of the public, then we can mute it for a while you share. Or if you have things you want to share that may be on a more personal matter, you can call me directly or connect with us. We want to accommodate your needs, but it is being recorded for official historical purposes. The other thing I want to say is that sometimes it's hard to find our agendas and our minutes. And if you, I'm trying to find it again. If you go onto Google, Googling Humboldt County Behavioral Health Board, you will then find an information within a list of committees, and then you'll be able to click on and get us directly. So what I'd like to do, we start by introducing everybody that's here. We start with a roll call of the board members. We have the voting people, and then asking staff to introduce themselves and say just a little bit about what your job is, and then invite members of the public to introduce themselves. If you would like to, you are invited at that time. You can say hello. You don't have to give us your name, but we certainly like to know who's with us and who's making those comments. So Joe, why don't you start with the roll call for the board members and give us all a pause that we can share with you our preferred pronoun if we want to.
Alyssa Norman,
She, her, here.
Laura Montagna,
Here.
Steve Madrone,
Here, he, him.
Tim Ash, excuse. Tim Doty,
Here, he, him.
Tracy Connor, Madison Flynn, excuse. Allison Tans, Debbie Hartridge,
Here, she, her.
Colleen Broderick, Isabella Watherspoon,
Oh, Colleen is here. Did you, your name was called? Colleen.
Sorry, calling she, her.
Isabella Watherspoon, Danette Kellerman.
I'm here.
Okay, so that gives us 7. We do have a quorum.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we'll go around the room, around the screen, and have staff introduce themselves. As I said, your preferred pronoun and just your job description. So why don't we get started with Kathy, and then Nancy, and then Laurel, and see if we can go from there. All right.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy Rigby. I'm the Mental Health Services Act Coordinator for Behavioral Health.
Hi, I'm Nancy Stark. I'm the Legislative Manager for DHHS, she, her.
Laurel Johnson, DHHS Analyst in Admin, she, her.
I can go. I'm Emmy Botzler Rogers. I'm the Behavioral Health Director, she, her.
I'm Paul Bignacki, he, him. I'm the Behavioral Health Deputy Director.
I'm Jeremy. Sorry.
Sharon
Jeremy.
Wolf, Analyst. Bye.
Jeremy Nilsson, he and him, Deputy Director over Children's Behavioral Health.
Jack Brazil,
Sorry, Jack.
Behavioral Health Deputy Director, he, him.
Connie Beck, Health and Human Services Director, she, her. Good to see everyone.
Christine Messenger, Communications Group, DHHS. Hi there.
Great, thank you.
Hi,
Aaron's
everyone.
up. Oh,
Go ahead.
Sonia
Sonia.
Levy Boyd. Sonia Levy Boyd, she, her. I'm with the Humboldt County Transition Aid Youth Collaboration.
Aaron Zell, Behavioral Health Administrative Analyst.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Alex Oliveira, MHSA QI Admin Analyst, he, him.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Thanks, Alex. All right, members of the public, we invite you to introduce yourself and let us know that you are here.
Well, hi there. My name is Gardner Carlson, and I'm hoping to be on the advisory board.
Okay.
Gardner Carlson, he, him.
I'm Dr. Katie Wilson, she, her.
Name is Vernon Price. I'm community member, he, him.
Thank you. Glad that you're here. Any other members from the public? All right. Thank you. We're at the times for adjustments to the agenda. And I have a comment about it, but I don't know of any adjustments we need to make. Does somebody have some adjustments that we may need to make? I guess my comment is that if you look at our action items, we have new applicants, letter, a conflict counsel, and a letter to the Board of Supervisors, and a report from the Mental Health Services Act. And so that's a full slate. So maybe when we get down to the communications from board members, we'll just keep it brief and see how much time we have. But otherwise, the agenda stands as is, unless there are no other comments on it. Allison, good to see you here.
I'm here, and I'm sorry, I was on my phone.
No.
So I'm getting off there, and now I'm on the computer.
No apologies. We're glad to hear. We need you here. You're going to solve all of our problems for us.
Nice. Okay. Thanks.
So this is a time for public comments then, and you're allowed to come and speak for 3 minutes and talk to us. Primarily about anything that's under the jurisdiction of behavioral health and mental health areas of substance use or substance use disorders. So invite you to speak. Sonia.
Hi, I was just following up from my public comment last month, wondering if the care court was going to make it on the agenda for July, just so I can plan with youth to attend if needed. I know there was a letter attached to the invite for this, but just wondering if there was going to be further conversation on it.
I think we're going to go with the navigation system that's on and at our executive committee. We're going to have it last month and it didn't happen. We weren't prepared, so we set it up for July. We don't have an August meeting, so it could be September. Emmy, does that make sense? Anybody else, Laura, on the executive committee, that we try to do the care court in September? Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
All right.
I don't know how soon when the agenda comes out. Is there a way to maybe someone can notify me just so we have a few weeks to prepare with the youth ahead of time, if that's possible?
Do you need it early? Because Joe, you sent it out within at least a week or so.
2 weeks, with 10 days to 2 weeks before the meeting.
Right.
That should probably be enough time, but if you know it's going to be on there any earlier and want to shoot me an email, that would be greatly appreciated. Joe,
why don't you just highlight that? We may know that by the executive committee, so you would have a lot more time for it, okay? Yeah, thank you for that request. We'll try to do what we can to respond.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments or questions from the public?
This is Dr. Katie Wilson, and I do just have a question related to the legislature recommendations. I read through that, and I didn't see on that specific thing the SB 1337 and SB 1338. And so I wasn't sure if those are going to be included.
Why don't we wait till we get that report? And I mean, you've read it. I'm not, but there are people who put that together and can answer that question at that time. Does that make sense?
Oh, it's fine with me. I thought I would throw it out. Well, I had it on my mind and it was a public comment, so.
I understand. Perfect. Understand perfectly.
All right, take care. Thanks.
All right, hang in there. Other members of the public, I don't see any here, but you might be. All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. We'll move ahead then with our action items. And the next action item is the minutes put together. And so I'll entertain questions, comments. Everybody ready to move the adoption of them?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as submitted. That's me, Laura.
Me, Laura. Well, me, Tim. I'll second it. I guess I can second it. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye, or do both. Aye. Any dissension about it? All right, then it is so carried. So we have a special time, an exciting time, and that is the membership committee, Tim Ash and I, we received applications through Joe, and then we read them and interviewed 3 people who have applied to become on our board. And as you know, those, if we approve them, will go to the Board of Supervisors because that's how they get on the board. They're appointed by them. And so we're excited about all 3 of them and present them to you with our letter of recommendation or approval. We think they're great candidates. And I see that Oscars is not here. I can't remember. I thought he said he might not be able to be with us, but his name is still will be presented before you. And I and Tim Ash, my partner in crime, is for medical reasons not able to attend. So now is the time, and let's start. And Gardner, tell us who you are and a little bit about your interest in beyond becoming a member of the Behavioral Health Board.
Sure, great. And I want to thank everybody for the opportunity, first of all. My name is Gardner Carlson. I want to make sure, can everybody hear me adequately? Yes?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Anyway, I'm a NAMI member, and I do have a 33-year-old Navy Special Forces veteran who was honorably discharged with bipolar 1 schizoaffective disorder and a substance use disorder, and who after 3 or 4 years now of struggle is in a residential dual treatment program with the VA. And we're very happy about that. And I also have another son who committed suicide, who also was bipolar 1 schizoaffective. So I have an ongoing interest, not only in my own family, but in the wider community. My background is, I have a background not only as a performing artist for 10 years as a professional ballet dancer, but a 17-year background as a paramedic supervisor and operations manager with the emergency medical services agencies in the Bay Area. I also have a 15-year background as a psych tech with Napa State Hospital and in the vocational rehabilitation department. And I have also worked in crisis stabilization units. And here in this community, I have worked in a locked behavioral health unit. And I currently work in the Aegis treatment, methadone treatment clinic program, which is a rehabilitation program here in Eureka. And I'm hopefully, I will be able to provide and want to and have a great interest in a wide range of issues that do interface and actually directly interface with the mentally ill population, the homeless population, I don't like that word, and people with substance use problems.
Thank you, Gardner. You come to us with a lot of background experience, both personal and professional. Very much appreciated. Are there some comments, questions that you have, anyone on the board for Gardner?
I hate to do this, but I kind of need to.
Oh, cool.
Okay. When you're coming from a peer perspective, and talking about mental health disorders, we like to kind of phrase things a little bit different, rather than calling someone, saying somebody is mentally ill, or saying, somebody is a diagnosis. We don't like to necessarily insinuate that that's what they are, that's who they are. We like to say, works with the challenges of mental health, rather than like is bipolar, or they live with bipolar. They work every day to balance bipolar. They do everything they can in every moment of their life to be able to live with bipolar disorder, but that's not who they are, unless they personally choose to identify as it, from a diagnosis first perspective. That's their own choice. Like me, I'm on the autism spectrum, and I actually call myself autistic, but that's my choice. Other than that, we like to just say person with, but other than that, it sounds like you have a lot of incredible experience, and welcome.
Well, thank you. And I really, really appreciate that comment. And I understand that comment. In my experience of all those years, I have learned the real value of doing things with people and not imposing things on people. And I wish to not stigmatize anyone or any group of people. I'm just trying to identify
Thank you.
my experience, but I do understand that. And I've had wonderful experiences in person-centered policies, therapies, and programs, and nothing is more rewarding. And that's what I really enjoy, is seeing people overcome, succeed, and become successful and happy.
Thank you
That
very
is my
much.
motivation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Gardner? I'll entertain a motion to approve his application.
I make a motion to approve Gardner's application.
I
Me,
second
Laura.
that.
I third.
I saw about 3 people seconding it. That's great. Thank you very much. Sometime you can tell us, the group, about how you danced in Israel, and that's a different story. So,
Well,
not now. We don't have time for that dancing. Okay. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Welcome on board. So Vernon, to you, you've served with us, done a lot of things in the community. Glad you interviewed and willing to come back. Talk to us, introduce yourself to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Vernon Price. I'm 51 years of age. I live here in Eureka in Humboldt County. I've been a member of this board once before, but I had to resign due to medical and psychological issues. But would love to re-entertain the thought of becoming a member again, bringing lived experience to the board. And I'm learning to be brief. So at this point, I'll conclude and entertain any thoughts, comments, or questions.
Well, then, okay. I see a hand from Danette, and then a thumbs up from supervisor and a hand. All right, let's just go to you, Danette, first, and then we'll see how we go. Okay.
I just want to tell you, Vernon, that I'd be honored to serve on the board with you. And I'm so grateful that I get to run into you in the community, and we get to have some of our conversations, and that you are so not afraid to share your experience, strength, and hope. And I love that. Thank you.
Thank you, Danette. Alyssa, I saw your hand up.
That was far too brief, Vernon. You're fantastic. I want to hear more from you. Tell us more
Well,
about yourself.
I am a board member of Cal Voices on their board of directors. I would like to maintain that boardship, but I'm going to leave everything as is. For those that do know me, please don't hold it against me, and those that don't know me, don't go on here to say. But I mean that is a light joke, and I'm trying to be brief. So you know, I'm relearning how to just be present instead of saying anything.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vernon.
Okay, Vernon. Anybody else? I want to say you're looking wise, mature, and handsome today, Vernon. I just want to say that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
So I would like to entertain a motion.
No, I get to entertain the motion. You make the motion.
Okay, I would like to make it.
I'm seconding it.
All in favor, say aye, raise your hand. Okay.
Aye.
Look, great. Thank you, everyone. Welcome, Vernon. And so, a hand from Debbie. Oh, okay. You were raising your hand to vote. Okay, thank you. So we had Oscar Magolan. Did I pronounce that right? Laura,
Yes.
you know. Okay. And we interviewed him. He's a young man. I think he's 24, something close to that, and fits into the General Tay category of a young man. Very active, smart, wise, very interested in some new things that might be brought to us and related to nutrition and agricultural work. He's been a real organizer in that and has ideas about how, as a supportive employment types of things that we might be able to work, very particularly on this of those with mental health challenges and how such activity might be really helpful and therapeutic, and he's eager to learn some more. Laura, would you maybe speak another word or two about him?
I'm just really impressed with his knowledge of community and political systems. He's well-spoken and just really has a heart for doing good work. So of course he's kindred to me. And he's young. I mean, the way he presents himself, he seems older. So I think he would be a great asset to our board. And that's why I spoke with him for such a long time. I worked with him with Cooperation Humboldt, and his outreach contacts were incredible in the time that he worked for them. So
thank you.
I can answer questions.
Right. I'm sorry that he's not here, and he told us that might be a possibility. So Alyssa?
I had the opportunity to meet him, not as probably as well as you or Laura know him, but he's incredibly outgoing, very kind, very eager, very helpful individual who I was actually really excited at the possibility of working with.
Okay. So to the board, do you feel comfortable going ahead and vote without having him here? Or do you want to postpone this to another time? I feel comfortable with it, but it's your decision.
So do you want to say, does anybody want to raise their hand if they don't feel comfortable?
Let's do that. If you're not comfortable, let's just raise your hand and let me know you'd like to put this off. I don't see any hands going up. So let's have that motion and second to approve his application.
I would love to make a motion to submit Oscar Margolian's name to the Board of Supervisors as a member.
Alyssa, are you raising your hand to do the second?
I am seconding that. I would love to see Oscar on the board.
All right, great. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye, both, whatever, okay? Thank you. I see your chat, Nanette. Be right back. Thank you, everyone. So item C in our agenda, action items, related to a letter from a conflict counsel. This was developed at the executive committee. I had to bail out of that committee before it was over, And so I had discussed with Tim Ash and Laura being our vice chair, managed that meeting when I was gone. And I'll just say what I understand, this is coming from the executive board, is to try to find some clarification for board members in channeling concerns that we might have to the behavioral health department, to the board, or to the community about issues related to our concerns in mental health and substance abuse. And when is it appropriate to do this? When it is the best way to do that? And it appears, particularly since we have a lot of new people, that sometimes can be confusing. And so one of the things that was talked about is when you know an individual has a complaint about how things happen, how they were treated, or whatever, there is an official complaint process. And so the discussion was, well, let's kind of put that in category, tell everybody on the board that if you're helping someone, let's start there. If there's a serious concern that you have, and then let that go, because it is an official process. And then what it may be resolved, it may have more questions, we can follow up on that. So that's kind of like one category. But then also, as board members, we are official advisors, and it seems quite appropriate if we have questions about things, concerns about how things are done, to call staff. And again, the idea being is maybe not go directly to Emmy, but go to deputy directors or someone you know who's working on that. It was just a question. And maybe doing some of these things before we send them out into the whole community as a concern. We might need to talk to staff or follow a complaint process. That's my brief summary of it. And there may be better ways to delineate that and develop a policy for board members about these communications. I want to say, I think I said this to you, Colleen, it could have been someone else. As a member of the board, you have a card to play. A member of the public doesn't have quite the access to staff or to issues going on, because that's what we were appointed to do. But we want to do it in a way that's most helpful and productive. So that's my kind of summary of how this issue came up. And one of the thoughts was, well, let's just have a small ad hoc committee, write it down and put it together. So it's not just kind of what Tim Doty is saying, and let staff take a look at it, because they can guide us on the best procedures. This is not to take away our voice advocacy. This is to help channel our participation in the most productive way. So I'll stop talking. And Laura, you were there at that end. If the board wants to, we can have an ad hoc committee kind of clarify this and come up with a working paper on it. Anything else you'd say to that, Laura?
Well, Debbie wanted to say something.
Oh.
Well, Laura, why don't you, if you had something to add, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, so at that meeting, we found out there's a process when there's a complaint, and I downloaded the behavioral health complaint form, which there's a QI component. So as board members, if somebody has an issue, if we can say, hey, here's the process. If you go through that process and you don't get, anybody getting back to you, then we could help with it. And so that's all I just wanted to say.
Deborah, and then I see you, Colleen.
Okay, so I'm just trying to put it all in context. So what we're talking about is not accepting. So the process now, let's say somebody has a complaint, some member of the public has some complaint. Right now, what they would do theoretically is contact you, Tim, I suppose. Is that what happens now usually, or?
No, it could come in any way. I might be the second person. I'm just a member of the board, so you might be contacted.
Okay, so some member of the board might be contacted, and if it were me, then I guess it would be helpful to know what to do with a complaint. So I would come to you with it and say, hey, Joe Blow told me this happened and what should I tell him or what should the board tell him? So that's what I would do. And then you would, I know, I guess we've had people who've come to the board meetings and you've said they can come to the board meeting or how does it work now? Is that how it works?
A member of the public can come and say they have a complaint as a public
Okay.
comment.
Okay. So then, but we have a different process which involves them filling out a form and submitting it to us, to the board. Is that what it is? Or is it?
No, the complaint document that Laura downloaded and was talking about. Laura, why don't you speak more specifically to that document, how it works?
So it's like with any place, you know, you, hey, I'm having a problem here. You, and that's what quality improvement is. Oh, good. Emmy wants to talk about it. Should you just say, Emmy, go? You can explain.
Sure. So, and Paul, you can chime in because this is in Paul's purview too. But so essentially, County Behavioral Health has a grievance and complaint process. So if anybody is having issues, concerns with the services that they're receiving, including the provider that they're receiving, they can submit a complaint, actually verbally or in writing to our QI department. So I think part of what we're discussing here is how
QI stands for
quality improvement.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so I think what we're talking about here is if someone on the board is hearing informally or formally from somebody that they have concerns, my hope is that you all have the information to be able to direct them to that point so that they can submit their complaint or concern and have it directly responded to. I think the other piece that maybe you're referencing, Tim, is that, you know, sometimes people feel unhappy or dissatisfied, and it's always helpful to start with direct communication to their provider or to their provider supervisor and see if those things can be resolved. Like, we want to be able to resolve things at the lowest level possible, but if individuals are finding that they're not getting their needs met, it can certainly go to the complaint or grievance process. And I'd like you all to have enough information to help shepherd people in that direction.
Okay, thank you. I saw a hand by Colleen, but Paul, did you want to pick up on any of that?
No, I think Amy did a great job at outlining that process. And I would just say we're always interested in and have an eye towards improvement. So having input and from the community and from our consumers is important to us and valuable.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Colleen.
My notion is that there are a lot of things that people don't understand about the system, and they're somewhat afraid to go directly to the institution. I mean, I really support what you're saying, Emmy, about going to their provider and going through your system, but there may be a way of kind of being a go-between of helping people through that process and kind of not in such a vulnerable capacity. Just people who are afraid to enter that kind of a conversation. And it would be interesting to be on a committee that could talk to those people just to point them toward maybe the right way to handle it. I would be interested in being in that ad hoc.
Okay.
I do think, oh, sorry, Tim, can I say something?
Sometimes you would call that a mentor or navigator, or help somebody kind of who doesn't feel they know or anxious about it, to be kind of a partner, what I hear you saying, something like that. And then how would that work?
Yes.
Okay, Emmy?
Well, I was just going to say it's a really good point, Colleen, because I think our systems can be hard to navigate or understand how to navigate. And we are really working on doing a better job of sharing information. And so if there are aspects of our system that in particular, the community feels like, whoa, wait, how do we get this type of service? Or why are we being, re-referred over here? Like those general things, those are great conversations for us to have here and information that we can share. Where it gets tricky or challenging is when individual client information is shared broadly and we're asked to respond to that, because we can't share information about individual clients in a public meeting or with anybody that we don't have an ROI or a release of information to share information with. And so that's why I think it's important to make sure that individuals who have complaints can really get their complaint to the right place to be heard and responded to, as opposed to just kind of a more general conversation about, well, how come so-and-so is happening to them, right? Because our hands are tied to really engage in that type of conversation.
Well, I'm beginning to hear more layers to this. I see a hand from Melissa, then we'll get back to you, Colleen, okay?
So, being there for people can be really difficult when they're going through a lot of challenges and they're getting put off just once and once and once again. And I mean, you all know this, that when people are dealing with the most struggles in their life and they are barely making it from day to day to get services, and it can be incredibly frustrating and oftentimes not actually work. And then how are we supposed to help in that situation? We barely understand the complaint process. I interned at QI and I still don't know the process of how the complaints are actually received and processed and how they're looked at. I think that if we really want to get into this area and to be able to learn what the process is and how to best help others, you know, to be able to re-engage in their treatment, that we need to learn more about this whole process, why it's held in-house, how QI is enough outside of DHHS for it to actually be a worthwhile pursuit, and how it's fairly undertaken. I think that if we do that, that we'll be able to come at this from a much more intelligent perspective and be able to really possibly help in the process.
I hear another layer, a part of that. And
Yeah.
the more I'm thinking that's what we need to do is to take this out of the committee and have a subcommittee. It wouldn't be a lengthy thing. We could do it maybe in one meeting, but Colleen.
Yeah, but we'll need teachers. We'll need.
That's what I'm thinking. But I want to be able to take this off, because I would talk to Emmy and say, is there a staff person who could sit in if we have lunch, and then I would like to prepare an agenda. Well, what are the different issues? So not to try to do that here, but I keep hearing more things. And Colleen, I don't always see every finger or hand. Did you want to say something else, Colleen?
Yeah, I'll be very brief. In the street outreach that I've done with homeless people, there needs to be a lot of hand holding, and it's not necessarily digging in to tell me all about your past, but like, well, what would make you afraid to talk to that person about, and so on that kind of way, kind of a committee that creates an opening for that person to represent their needs.
I agree, but so Elvira has come to some ANAMI meetings and other public meetings, and the issue is often, she's an analyst from QI, of how does the communication, where are the brochures, is there a navigator? Because it's easy for us to get lost in the system trying to communicate. But that's a big issue, and I don't see any easy answer to that. So that's what we discussed. If I can move on at the executive committee, I wanted to bring this forward. All I'm looking for to start is kind of a working paper. And then we can keep talking about this, because I know the staff want to work with us and they don't want us to get lost, or so that's what I would like to do. I will call a meeting maybe next week. We'll email me if you want to sit together and lunch or something like that and talk about this, and then we'll move from there. Okay, everybody okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. So the next action item is the letter to the Board of Supers. All right, Tim, I need 2 more cups of coffee. Board of Supervisors regarding the legislative recommendations. I was not on this ad hoc committee. Everybody got a copy of it, and I'm looking at it. It's dated June 2022, and it's headlines: Behavioral Health Board Legislative Recommendations. Tim Ash was going to speak on this, and he's not here, so I guess I want to kick back to the committee members how we want to proceed. Nancy, you've done an outstanding job with this, but I don't know, Allison, whether you wanted to speak to.
I would be the person.
Oh, okay. I did not know this, Alyssa. Take over.
Okay. So Nancy Stark, and oh, is she here? Was it Sharon Nancy? Yeah, okay. And Sharon Wolf, they are fantastic, and they walked us through a lot of legislation. I was not able to be present for the whole time, but we went through a lot of the bills that we were interested in last time and got updates on them. And we also were educated on Care Court a little bit more. They did a wonderful job. I do not have the notes, but what we did was Tim and I, after the fact, went through and made sure that everything was, sorry, I'm in an office. Tim and I afterwards went through and made sure that all of the board items that we thought were interesting were included, and then that was the update that was sent to everybody. So that was what we were involved in. And yeah, we didn't do SB 1337 or SB 1338. I went and I looked at it, and I do not know why it was included. I was figuring Nancy could probably tell us if maybe it was in holding or what it was about it. No, it's not. Do you know why we didn't look at that one, Nancy?
Sure. So thank you so much, Alyssa. For the full board, your ad hoc committee on legislation identified positions ultimately on 9 of the bills of the hundreds that we went through of state legislative bills for your full board to consider today. Should your full board agree with these recommendations, then DHHS staff will prepare a letter for Chair Doty to sign, requesting that the Board of Supervisors ask our state representatives to support or oppose these bills. So, as you know, one of your board's roles is to advise the Board of Supervisors. So, for example, the Board of Supervisors has already taken a position on Care Court on SB 1338. So the purpose of these recommendations is to ask the board to take positions on bills for which they have not yet already taken a position.
Okay, is that what we were doing? Thanks. Awesome.
So let me jump in. It is an action item, and at the top of the page, it's proposed position support, and that involves all the items that are listed here, right? Okay, so you're proposing I send a letter that says the Behavioral Health Board supports AB 2275, SB 970 on down that list. Yeah. All right. Now the board, you understand what we're doing? You have questions or comments about this?
I'd like to make a motion, I guess, and then we can discuss, but I make a motion, we accept the letter as submitted and have it go to the Board of Soups.
Okay. There's a second on that?
I can second.
Good. I mean, just for the rest of you, this is standard parliamentary procedure to have a discussion on an action item without having it there to talk about is confusing. So we know exactly what we're talking about, and we're talking about sending this entire letter for approval. Perhaps there's one or two you would want to pull out, or that's kind of my understanding.
They were also good. If anybody is interested in and they read the letter and they're interested in any of the legislation, we can easily talk it over. It wouldn't take that long.
Okay, thank you. So a non-board member, Katie, public comment, Katie.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. I did read through the letter and I think it's awesome, but I had a few additions or things for the board to consider. And I'm actually surprised if the Board of Supervisors already formulated an opinion about SB 1338 care courts without input from the BHB, but perhaps the BHB is still allowed to give input to the Board of Soups on the specifics on those if they so
Oh, we didn't
choose.
make a decision on care courts. We were just informed on care courts. We haven't gone that far yet.
Okay, I've been advocating at the state level about care court, and I've testified twice now in the state hearings. And my big thing that I would love if we all can get behind would be that I think that the state has an obligation to provide access to treatment across the state and across county lines, because otherwise patients who happen to live in counties that have fewer resources get worse care.
I
And to
saw
me,
that letter from you. I thought it was incredibly intelligent perspective. I think that that would definitely be something that's worth looking into, because then that way, if it's a statewide program rather than a county by county program like you wrote, it would make it so that we would be increasing access rather than decreasing access possibly.
right, because to me, it seems like it'd be pretty natural to have regions and then have counties that some have this and some have that, maybe be able to share care across counties and across the state. I mean, my big thing is just that I feel like the state really should be treating everyone equally and giving everybody the same access, because otherwise people are being...
Katie, I'm going to jump in. We have
Sure.
We have a motion. We're talking about the motion. And you're giving us excellent information and about other things that we're not voting on. And so,
well, I was actually
what?
I was actually talking about the SB 970 that is on your list there.
Oh, okay, I see that.
Yeah, because it's the same issue, which would be, I wrote down on the SB 970 that at the end, something like equality of access.
You're speaking in support of this.
Yes, but I'm specifically suggesting that the board consider adding that we're proponents of having equality of access across the state.
Okay.
Across county lines, so that people across the state get the same amount of treatment.
I don't see how that's SB 970, but I may not be understanding everything correctly.
In any case, it's just a suggestion for discussion.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Anything else, Katie?
No, I would say not.
Okay, thank you.
Except that when the 1338 and 1337 get discussed, I would just have the exact same comment.
Okay.
And just so you probably all know, 1337 is pretty awesome. But I think it's not going to add any benefit to us here in Humboldt County unless the state provides equal access across the state. So anyway, I'm going to mute myself. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Katie.
Just
So,
in case, oh, sorry.
no, Elsa, back to you.
Just in case you're all interested in 1337, it does look interesting. They're still rewording it a lot. There's a lot going on and nothing has been decided. It's sitting and waiting for a decision to happen right now. And it is about services and treatments for early psychosis. So if you're interested, just Google California SB 1337. It's a really good read.
Okay, thank you. So I hope everybody had a chance to read this and digest this. We have not had an ad hoc committee work with staff this thoroughly and deeply on these kind of things, and it is very, very important. I know it's hard to read all of this and comprehend it all, but so I'm very, very grateful.
Nancy does an incredible job. Sharon and Nancy both. They are really good at what they do.
Right. Great. Thank you. So are we ready to vote to send this recommendation as a letter of support to the Board of Supervisors? we're ready to vote. We've already moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
If you have any dissensions, I don't see them, so ordered. I guess the judge has so ordered, but
Why not?
why not? It is approved. Thank you again. Thank you. So we've gone that. We've got to our major presentation about we're at the time for Kathy Rigby to lead us through the public report. Kathy, going to hand over the program to you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to be sharing my screen here. Are you able to see this?
Yes.
Okay, I have some nods. So my presentation today is going to be about the Mental Health Services Act annual update for 2022 through 2023. This public hearing is a required step per the Mental Health Services Act, and the public hearing today is occurring at the end of the 30-day public comment period, which is also required by the legislation. So today is the last day for the public comment. So how do you provide input at today's public hearing? You can use the chat box to type a comment in there, or by the end of today, June 23rd, you can send an email with your comments to this email address, mhsacomments@co.humboldt.ca.us, and notes will be taken today on the verbal comments that are made. A little background, and most of you in this meeting will have seen this before, but some of you haven't been here, so I want to go through this. So the Mental Health Services Act, Proposition 63, was approved by voters in 2004 and became law in January 2005. It places a tax on 1% of all personal income of those folks who make over $1 million. The taxes are collected by the California State Treasury and placed in the Mental Health Services Fund. 5% of those tax dollars are allocated to state agencies for their administration and for special projects. Those state agencies include the Department of Healthcare Services, the Mental Health Services Oversight and Accountability Commission, and the Department of Public Health, among others. 95% of those tax revenues are allocated to California counties based on an allocation methodology, the primary component of which is population. In order for the counties to receive these funds, they have some requirements they have to meet. They have to complete a 3-year plan every 3 years. The most recent 3-year plan was for the fiscal years 2020 through 23. That was approved 2 years ago. We also, between the 3-year plans, have to do 2 annual updates that report on the activities of the programs in the 3-year plan. So this annual update is for 22-23, and the next process will be another 3-year plan that will cover 2023 through 2026. The county is required to do a community program planning process as set forth in the legislation in order to receive the funds. That planning process is to include representatives of unserved and underserved populations and their family members. It should reflect the diversity of the demographics of the county and include individuals or entities with an interest in mental health services. And many of you have heard me before and provided input into this plan. So the process for this annual update, I did 10 stakeholder meetings that included 72 participants. 22 of those participants, which is 31% of the total, completed a demographic form that gave me information about race, ethnicity, age, residence, etc. A stakeholder meeting report was prepared that has the details of that process, and that report is found on the county website on the MHSA webpage. So for those of you who are interested, please go and read that report for the details. For this annual update, there were some themes that emerged from the process, and you can see what those themes are here. The first column on the left lists those themes. The next column is the number of meetings at which that theme was mentioned. The column that says email includes those folks who submitted a written comment to the MHSA email. And then there's the totals. Now, all of these themes that you see here are themes that I have heard before in gathering input. The details of those themes you can find in the stakeholder report that I just mentioned. It gives you more of the details about what was included in each of those themes. So let's look at some of the programs that are included as a part of this annual update. So the total estimated funding for this next fiscal year is a little over $14 million. Now, you're going to hear me use the word estimated a lot because these funds are volatile, and that's all you can really do with the budget is make an estimate of what funds will come in and what will be expended. I prepared this chart here that shows a distribution of the categories of funding. We have the category of community services and supports, which is about 62% of the total. We have the category prevention and early intervention, which is about 23% of the total. We have the innovation category, which is about 15%. And then workforce education and training, the amount is so small, it came out to 0%, but there is some $54,000 allocated there. So that's the estimated distribution for the 4 components that are part of Mental Health Services Act. I'm going to go through each of the components pretty briefly and talk about the programs. For community services and supports, or CSS, there are 4 programs that you can see there. And I'm going to talk real briefly about each one of those. The first one is the Comprehensive Community Treatment or Full Service Partnership Program. As you can see, it has the huge bulk of the CSS funding. This is very, very intensive services and supports as defined by the client or partner to help decrease their hospitalization and help them achieve recovery from mental illness. So the services are very intensive and can include housing, medical, educational, etc. It's estimated, and in the next year, 225 individuals will be served. The next program under this category is regional services. It's less than 1% of the CSS funding. And as you can see, that's a very small amount, but I just want to say, this is not the entirety of funding. This is just the Mental Health Services Act funding going to this program. Regional services reaches out and engages adults living in the outlying areas of Humboldt County and provides services to them as needed. It's estimated that there'll be 50 individuals served over the next year. The older adults and dependent adults program is about 1% of the component funding. It provides in-home services to disabled adults, at-risk adults, and older adults. Services include outreach, education, assessment, and treatment. It's estimated that approximately 150 individuals will be served. And once again, this is not the entirety of the funding for the program. This is just the MHSA funding. The next program is crisis residential treatment, approximately 6% of the funding. It will provide crisis residential treatment to behavioral health referred clients. There is a contract with Willow Glen for this program, and they are in the process of searching for a facility. And I am not sure, but I don't think they've yet been successful at finding that facility to get services going. The next component of the Mental Health Services Act is the innovation component. Under this component, we have one approved project and then one proposed project. The approved project is the Resident Engagement and Support Team, or REST. It will provide increased case management and peer support for those experiencing homelessness or at risk of becoming homeless. It's estimated that about 100 individuals will be served each year. It was approved by the Mental Health Services Oversight and Accountability Commission last June. Services for clients will begin when positions are filled. It's been quite difficult filling the positions for case managers, so the opening of this program has been delayed. This project, innovation project, is a proposed new project. It will need to be approved by the Oversight and Accountability Commission. It is called the CalMesa Semi-Statewide Enterprise Health Record. It would be a one-time expenditure of approximately $600,000 and would allow behavioral health to participate with other counties in the state to identify a new electronic health record vendor. This project will address increasing access to services, increase support for the behavioral health workforce, address bilingual and culturally competent services by better data collection. So I would recommend to all of you that you read this section in the annual update because it is new and your behavioral health board members would not have seen this back in January when I made my initial presentation to you. The next category or component in MHSA is prevention and early intervention. These are the 7 programs that are part of that component. We have the Hope Center, which is approximately 17% of this funding, providing a safe and welcoming environment based on recovery, self-help, and providing resources for people with mental health challenges. It's peer-run and includes peer-to-peer education and support, navigation of systems, and linkages to services. The next program is the Transition Age Youth Advocacy and Peer Support Program, about 23% of this PEI funding, providing activities and peer support for youth and young adults ages 16 to 26. It's estimated that approximately 200 individuals will be served. The Suicide Prevention Program is facilitated by DHHS Public Health and is about 12% of the total funding. They provide training such as question, persuade, and refer. They are a facilitator of the Suicide Fatality Review Team. They do activities around lethal means safety. They collaborate with the Humboldt County Suicide Prevention Network, and they do social marketing activities around suicide prevention. Parent Partners. This program aims to build peer-based alliances by a peer partner sharing their lived experience as a parent caregiver of a youth with a mental health issue. They offer assistance to navigate systems and help link parents and caregivers with community resources. Local implementation agreements. These are small mini grants that are provided to communities that apply for these grants. And it's approximately 7% of the PEI funding. We had a round of applications this past spring, and we have approved 4 projects that will begin in July of this year. One of those projects is to Bear River Band for the Bear River Neurofeedback Program. There's a funded project for Changing Tides that is doing a training called Attachment Vitamins. First 5 Humboldt was funded to do some early childhood prevention and early intervention activities. And then McKinleyville Community Collaborative is going to provide Humboldt mental health first aid, and that will be mental health first aids for adults, for youth, and for teens. So those were the 4 projects approved in that category. The School Climate Transformation, our multi-tiered system of support, is a contract with the Humboldt County Office of Education, and it supports the prevention and intervention specialist there at HCOE to manage, develop, and coordinate services with the multi-tiered system of support. And these activities do reach all students in Humboldt County schools. The final program for PEI is the North Valley Suicide Prevention Hotline. It's a small amount of funding that we provide along with several other counties in the northern region to operate a suicide prevention hotline. The final component of MHSA that is being supported is for workforce education and training. These funds will go to the Relias e-learning system, which is available to behavioral health staff. It's an online e-learning system that provides trainings and opportunities to read and attest to reading and understanding policies and procedures. We are also participating in the Superior Regional Partnership Program that will provide opportunities to increase and retain the behavioral health workforce. So those are the components and the programs that are intended to be supported during this next year. Here are the next steps for this annual update. As I said earlier, today, the end of today will be the end of the 30-day public comment period. The input that I received during the comment period and today's public hearing will be incorporated into the annual update. The update will go to the Board of Supervisors for approval, and then it will go to the California Department of Healthcare Services and the Oversight and Accountability Commission. That concludes my presentation. So now I am open for questions and comments from the public.
I have a question.
Hi, Allison.
Hi. My question is, I'm just wondering in the future if it would be possible to show the entire budget, because I know you gave a lot of percentages of what was feeding into the amount from MHSA, but we didn't see the totals. And I feel like that I was sitting here calculating on the side, but it was hard to keep up. And then I was also really curious about the process for approving projects. Like, what does that look like from you submit it to the oversight committee? And then I'm just curious on how that, like, even on the local level, like how those projects are determined, and then at what stage they move up to the oversight committee and how long the overall process takes.
Well, first of all, I'm going to just quickly share my screen again. In regard to your question about the budget, it is included in the annual update, which was sent to you. And let me see, this is the summary page here. And it gives the total amounts for each of the categories. This is page 107 of the annual update. So this is the summary page. And then if you follow down from that, you will see the budget for each of the components there. And just to point out that this column B is the MHSA funding. These column C, which you'll see for some of them, is estimated funding from Medi-Cal. And then column F is estimated other funding. And all of that refers back to column A, which is the total estimated expenditures. But in my presentation, I just focused on the MHSA part of it, which is in column B.
That's really helpful. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So I'd just like to point you there, and it would just be difficult in the presentation to show all that. And then your other question, if I'm understanding, is about, in general, how do these projects or programs get approved? And does that go all the way to the state for approval? Or maybe you could repeat your question there.
Sure, I can repeat it. So I know that you have all of the stakeholder meetings and the public comment sessions, and then you take in all the feedback from the community. And my question is, at what point is it determined, like, what projects will move forward? I'm just really curious, like, what the prioritization of projects is, or if you know, like, you've done a needs assessment and you have needs you're trying to fill, Or I'm just curious how it gets decided. And then my next question is, I'm assuming like Emmy is leading that group and after they're proposed, and then what the timeline is of those proposals they're going to the oversight committee, and how long does that take for them to actually approve something? Are you sitting on it for like, 6 months or a year? I'm just curious about that timeline.
Well, the input that I receive from the stakeholder process goes to behavioral health leadership. I prepare a report and I give it to leadership. And then they look at that input and determine what programs will either continue to be funded or if there's any new ones that would be added. So that's the step after I gather the input. When I hear back from leadership, I make modifications to the annual update out for the public comment period, which is what we're just ending right now. When it goes to the Department of Healthcare Services and the Oversight and Accountability Commission, they don't approve the plans. I'm assuming that they just trust that the counties are enacting the programs that are needed and that have stakeholder interest in mind, but they don't come back to us and say, you can't do this, or why are you doing that? They just accept the plans. And we don't get any feedback from the plans until they do an audit. And MHSA had its first audit in June of 2020. And the state plans to do those audits every 3 years. So probably in 2023, there'll be another audit.
Thank you.
And Emmy may want to add.
I was just going to clarify that the exception to that is the innovation plans. Those do get approved by the OAC. And that might have been what Allison was heard in asking.
Okay. That could be. I'm been a little anxious and jittery here waiting for my presentation. So if you were asking about the innovation plan, yes, any innovation does have to go to the OAC and get their approval before we can start. The REST innovation project, we worked with the OAC for over a year, going back and forth with their staff to develop a plan that they would then say was appropriate to go to the OAC as a whole. So it was well over a year between when we started and we finally got approval for the plan.
Thank you.
Remind us what AOC means.
Mental Health Services Oversight and Accountability Commission.
Thank you.
I used AOC because it's a little shorter.
I get it. I understand. I may be the only one, but I don't think so. It needs these things clarified. So are there other comments or questions? Debbie, did I see your hand go up? You're muted.
No, Tim, I was just agreeing with you. Thumbs up.
Okay.
Thanks for asking that question. If I sound hoarse, I am hoarse.
So one of the questions that we have is at what point, where does the Behavioral Health Board, as an official advising committee, engage itself in this process? This is an important part right here, bringing this information, although it's public to us, to spend time looking at, asking questions and making comments. And so let me throw out a hypothetical, maybe not that hypothetical. MHSA money went for the Critical Crisis Treatment Center. I think it was about $500,000 to that. when that was developed because the public wanted it. And then the allocation of that amount of money was in partnership with the county behavioral health. And then they put together a proposal and then sent that out. In a sense, you passed the baton on to the county to use those funds under that direction to develop the program. And then they went ahead and said, well, how can we do that, and set up a team? And then someone like Jack has a major role in following that through using other grant money or funds. I'm just trying to do a path in there. Now we have Jack report to us regularly and have that advisory and learning, process. So that role of the Behavioral Health Board, and we have a lot of new people, but this question has been mine forever. Our involvement with the program is right now with you, but we could carry that on with the department advising and so forth. I'm kind of rambling, I hope not. Does my comment question make any sense, Kathy, in terms of how we engage?
I had a little bit of trouble, I admit, following you. As you know, I came to the Behavioral Health Board in January, and I made a presentation to you about the first draft of the annual update. So that was one opportunity for your input. Then an ad hoc committee was formed.
Allison was a part, yeah.
Exactly. And your committee then brought those recommendations of the work group back to the board as a whole, which you then approved.
Right.
And I took those in as public input. So that was your second amount of our second opportunity for public input into the plan. And then today, as members of the public, you also have the opportunity to provide input. So those are three opportunities for the Behavioral Health Board to make input into the annual update.
Thank you. Yeah, I know I was doing other things that were outside of the purview, and just helping for myself and maybe others to understand how the process goes. So I want to give up my time. I'm sure there are other board members who might have questions or comments on this. This is being the last public presentation of the update. Board members.
I do, but it's kind of a tough one, Kathy. You might have to help me a little bit. On one of your last slides, the one about staff training. I was wondering, is there any place in that for kind of a peer reinforced staff training? Like one that's not typically through Relias, one that allows for, the subjects to be able to be looked at from a different perspective. I know it could be difficult to find the individuals to participate as peers. I'd be willing, but what about something like that, bringing it to the individuals who are receiving treatment and discussing that in an informative way to train professionals and inform them on some of the larger issues that are at play from a perspective that's not typically spoken about, because you're too busy trying to get stable and being not stable when you're getting treatment, and you don't oftentimes get to have a conversation.
So my presentation was focused on the funding from MHSA, and what it was going in. However, MHSA does not fund everything in behavioral health. It's approximately 13% of the funding.
Okay.
There are other opportunities for peer training that come through other avenues. I do believe that there has been effort. I haven't been involved, but in peers accessing the certification trainings that are being made available at a statewide level. And I also believe that the training unit in QI has looked at possibly providing some training about peer support. And so I do believe that there are other things going on outside of MHSA that address your concern.
Okay, so there is some effort to bring in the peer perspective to the organization.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Alyssa. Other comments or questions for Kathy?
I have a question, Tim.
Yeah.
Kathy, you present, one of the things you presented, I think it was under innovation, is a new data keeping system. Am I correct about that?
Yes, an electronic health system.
Yes. Could you just say a little bit more about that? Perhaps what is going to be different about that system, if you know much about it?
I can speak to that a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy.
Sure. And I might ask Paul for his help too, but we've for years had an electronic health record that is been pretty challenging. It's Avatar through NetSmart, and we've had issues with it from the get-go. It actually takes a lot of staff time and resource to even make it functional for our purposes. And with CalAIM rolling out, there's a number of new requirements that we'll have to build into an electronic health record that really likely couldn't be done with our current system. And so we were looking for alternatives to that. And there was the opportunity to partner with a group of other counties. It's called the Regional Semi-Regional Electronic Health Record Project, and it's being coordinated under Cal Mesa. And so, for many reasons, including that we will not have to on our own negotiate making sure that this system works for us, and that it will also provide an opportunity because many counties are opting in to better interface with other counties, share data, coordinate care, those kinds of things. We decided to opt into that. And we got to be part of the RFP process and give input into the selection, which was really great. And so it just was the best opportunity for us to be able to switch electronic health records, supportive of staff really, and also good client care, good quality client care.
Thanks. I mean, I in the last couple of months, I think it was the Family Advisory Board, of which I am sometimes an attendee, did have a presentation, and right now I can't think who it was from, but it was from a program under mental health that uses a different client data system than some of the other programs use. And it was just very impressive to all of us, the fact that if this kind of thing is sort of nerdy, but if you can access data about clients in between programs, it is so efficient and so much more helpful to the client than having to, do it some other way, like through paperwork or, I was really impressed. And so I understand the value of having a usable, shareable kind of data system. And that sounds like a step in that direction, this new one. So good to hear.
I don't know about your system, but it immediately tells me I'm muted. So thank you, everyone. Any other comments or questions for Kathy? Great. Thank you, Kathy. As always, you're very thorough and helpful and articulate on it. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for hosting this public hearing. I appreciate it.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. Then we'll move on with our agenda items. We have about a half an hour left in the meeting. I think we can cover most of it. So the next part is communications, things that members of the board just want to share with us. Are there some communications from board members? Oh, I see. Yes, Debbie.
Just real quick, for those who might be interested and haven't heard about this, there will be a memorial service for Sarah Turner on Monday at the Presbyterian Church in Arcata. And Sarah was one of the national founders of NAMI National, and just a wonderful leader for NAMI locally and also throughout the country. So it's going to be COVID safe as much as possible. I have COVID. I'm not going. But anyway, thought I'd throw that out there.
Thank you. She also taught social work at HSU for what, 20 years or more. So
she was a wonderful leader in terms of helping get the whole national organization and local one started.
Thank you for. No, thank you, Debbie. That was important to share. Other communications from board members. All right, then we'll move on with the agenda, and from the DHHS director.
I actually have something, communication, sorry.
Oh.
It's Disability Pride Month,
Oh.
which is fantastic. We're going to be RCRC, Synapsis, Tri-County Independent Living, and a few others are all getting together to do an event. I'm gonna have Joe put our flyer out when that happens. But anyways, happy Disability Pride Month, everybody.
Thank you, Alyssa. Look forward to seeing it, being a part of it. Danette.
Well, since she opened the door, I'm going to announce that September is National Recovery Month, and we are having a Recovery Happens in Humboldt event at Sequoia Park from 12 to 4. We have many entities tabling at the event for recovery, and there's not I call it non-denominational recovery because it's not AA, NA, it's all recovering people. And so we hope to see everyone there. The flyers are starting to come out now.
Great, thank you, Danette. Those are important things to share and get them out to the rest of us. Other things. You probably don't want to hear about my granddaughter's birthday, so I won't have that.
That's funny. Why not?
Yeah, right. So did we run Connie out of energy? I can't see it. Are you still with us, Connie? No, she left. Okay. Well, all right.
I don't see her.
Pardon?
I don't see her.
I don't see her either. So we'll move on to Behavioral Health Director, Emmy.
Okay, let's see. I have a few things I wanted to start with, and I'm not sure if this board is aware, but Kathy, who just did the presentation, is retiring this month.
Oh.
So July 15th will be her last day, and it will be a tremendous loss for us. We're currently recruiting for a new person to fill that position. And so, obviously we'll share that information as it rolls out. But anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge and thank Kathy in this group for all the work that she's done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're a wonderful person, Kathy. It's been great knowing you and seeing all the work you've done to increase equity at DHHS. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks for adding that, Alyssa, because honestly, Kathy also serves in the role of Ethnic Services Manager, and she has done a ton of work for us around racial and cultural equity and really moving our branch and DHHS forward in that arena. So much appreciation for that part as well.
You're going to have to get a real real fiery person to take her place.
Well, thank you.
I see Supervisor Madrone has his hand up.
Thank you very much. I too wanted to thank Kathy for all of her service from the board. I wish we had the chance, maybe we still do, to get some sort of a thank you together. I'm sure Emmy will be working on that to bring it to the board. But thank you, Kathy, for your service, your incredible heart and empathy for everybody in our community. And I just I can't thank you enough, but I'm going to thank you a ton. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Emmy, I think it's back to you now.
All right, I'm ready for it. So really the only other thing I wanted to report out on was just a little bit about SV and the work in the community with 5150s. Some of you may be aware that SV had a COVID outbreak, and so we were not accepting admissions for a period of time. We've resumed those now. As of Tuesday this week, we resumed them. I think we actually did a really fantastic job partnering with St. Joe's especially, and their leadership around moving clients that needed medical care and COVID treatment over to their facility. We offered to have some of our staff on site there so that we could be supportive. So anyway, it went, I think, as smoothly as it could have. We also, as of Monday, have reopened CSU. So we're taking patients into that unit, which I think is great.
Yeah.
We've initiated or had our first, I think, just one meeting with our staff and St. Joe's staff to just kind of come together and talk about coordination of care and just any issues that arise, including 5150s, and how we're kind of navigating that as a team, together, so that we're, providing continuity of care and really similar support so that we're having the best outcomes for patients that move between our systems. And then I'll just say we met again with Mad River this week, and I just feel so glad for those relationships. We're having regular conversations with them, and I think they would also say that they're going really well, and that we're really, I think, seeing some good progress in communication and in responding and managing the number of 5150 and 5585 children in crisis patients that we're seeing in our community. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Amy. I have this ongoing question about when we would be in person again. And seems to me the conference room at the professional building has the electronic digital capacity to include Zoom people, but may not be big enough, social distancing. So where are you all in that?
You're asking about this meeting being in person again? Yeah, yes. I thought that Connie had lifted that up a little while back and was looking into it. So I'll need to circle back with her just to see.
I remember bringing it up, but I didn't. I think it was still in progress, the answer.
I'll double check with her about that.
Okay. Hey, I see a hand from Laura.
Emmy, I just wanted to ask, with SV closed down and CSU, so what did people do? Like, how, if somebody was having a 5150 crisis, what happened to them?
Just the same as we do all the time. Like, they would go to the ED and we would have our staff deployed, and they would go and they evaluate. It just meant that they couldn't immediately come over to SV if they met criteria to do that. So we would be looking at other placements if that was the level of care that they needed.
And that was 2 weeks that SV was shut down, or do you know how
was that?
Many?
Do you know?
4?
I didn't hear you, Paul. You had
that was almost our first positive case was on the 30th. So we stopped for almost 4 weeks. We had our last known positive came up on the 13th
the 6th. And then we were able to readmit on the 21st.
That's right. Yep.
But that doesn't mean that we weren't providing services, Laura and others. It just meant we weren't taking any new admissions until we could get all negative tests or an appropriate quarantine period
Laura, back to you,
there-
follow up.
There were just some things that happened, like with law enforcement, and I think that they didn't know that. So I was just curious to know, like, oh, maybe that's why those things didn't get handled the way they normally do. And I think that they didn't know, some of them didn't know about it until a few days ago. So that's all.
We notified all dispatch and all of our normal partners about the stopping of admissions. So we were pretty vocal about that, and so I'd be happy
So
to
City
follow
of
up with you
Eureka
on this.
Police Department was notified.
We sent out our notifications to all of our partners when we
Okay.
stopped admissions.
So that's just another, somewhere something got lost. All good. Thank you.
So is that what you said? The notification was about stop having admissions? Or was it we're closed or temporarily?
We weren't closed. We just stopped admissions
Okay.
so that we could manage the outbreak.
I see. And so all the partners, meaning
Law
all the
enforcement,
medical
dispatch,
facilities,
medical
doctors?
facilities,
Okay.
mostly the EDs.
Yeah.
Our key contacts at the EDs.
So we're back up and running. Cool. That's great. Anything else related to Emmy in your life or the work? Anything you want to share with us?
Well, I'm not going to share about my life, but in my work, no, I think I'm good.
Okay. I keep forgetting they are recording us. And
Right.
I have poor boundaries sometimes. So let's go on to the AOT. Jack, it seems to me you often have questions about the CRT as well, and that you're in the middle of that. So we might want to have that as a monthly thing. What's happening to the two of them? AOT is supposed to be starting, right?
Yeah, so we still anticipate that assisted outpatient treatment program as done with in partnership with EA Family Services will begin July 1st. We are currently working on our website, and we'll have that hopefully up and running here shortly. We'll also be working with DHHS communications on getting a public announcement prepared prior to July 1st. We will start sending EA referrals for the program, kind of a trickle at a time. The courts have been notified that we'll be starting July 1st, and they're on board and ready. And so I think, we're checking all of our boxes to get going. The other piece of this, is the education and training portion of it, right? And so EA and I have been working on the PowerPoint presentation that will be rolled out to various community partners. So EA will either go there to these various agencies or facilitate a Zoom meeting with the community partners to educate them on the AOT process, both in general and then specific for our county. So that will be happening after July 1st as well. And then I think Nevada County does some kind of, at regular intervals, does a community education meeting, right? So once a month or once every couple of months, they do a Zoom meeting where anybody from the community can come and learn about AOT. And so I predict that EA will do that as well at regular intervals. So yeah, I think getting ready to go. I'm excited.
That's great. So maybe sometime October or something like that, you could bring the same PowerPoint to us, right?
Yeah, for sure. You guys are on the list. Absolutely.
Have any specific challenges that you're facing right now in getting started in July 1?
I don't think so. I think, I was sort of thinking about the courts, and making sure that they're prepared, but I've actually had really good communication with them on their readiness, right? So I know that we're going to be assigned a specific judge, and we'll get a certain time and date for those AOT matters to be heard in front of that judge and have communication with the court administrator there, I believe. So that seems to be going
Do they
good.
have a psychiatrist on board?
I do believe that EA is contracted. They kind of have a similar situation with us where they have a telepsych company that they use, and I believe that's what they're going to be using for the AOT, as far as I know.
Not the best choice, but the one that works and is available. Yeah. All right, thanks for all of your work on that. So you want to say anything about where we are in the CRT? Have we got that building?
No, we're still working on it, still looking at different options. We did have a building on or a house, I guess, that we were looking at recently that we were really hopeful for. It does seem, though, that the needed repairs and upgrades for that house would be pretty significant monetarily. So we're still kind of chewing on that some. The Willow Glen, who's our partner with this, had an architect go look at that, and we're waiting kind of for the formal report from that architect. But the preliminary figures for that seem pretty significant, a lot to chew off. So,
okay, thank you very much. Any questions or comments for Jack? I appreciate what you're doing. These are brand new things coming on board, and you're focusing and making them happen. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
So other committees, ad hoc groups, this is the time if you just want to let us know how you're doing, any updates?
Hey, Paul, got any news? I always want to hear from Paul.
No.
What news? No, Emmy did a great job at covering some of the key areas and things I was going to bring up, but she did a great job with that.
He's like, what? No, I don't want to talk. Come on, Paul.
So mental health, SV director, all those director jobs, flying those jobs, anything?
We're still actively recruiting for a hospital administrator. So it's a senior program manager position. That position needs to be a licensed person. So tell your friends that are interested in working, a progressive and exciting program. They could apply, and we would happily interview them.
Get on it, Laura.
I'm going to recruit. Send me your job description, and I'm going to work on that.
I'm going to.
All right.
Very good.
You guys are funny.
So I do have a question, Paul. When the CRT is open and running, will that fall under your, because you do emergency,
No, I think we're going to let Jack oversee that program.
Okay. Way to go, Jack. All right. Thank you. As the chair, I don't have much to say. I guess one thing informally is that Laura and Alyssa are my partners in the executive committee. Remember, you elected them. And so I'm going to take them out to lunch, and whatever cost over $275 is on their own. And but what I just wanted to say is that we have an executive committee, and we want to get together and talk about how's the best way we can as a team continue to guide the board. So glad to have so many new people, and whatever's involved with that, we have kind of an open agenda, but I'm looking forward to that. So Vice Chair, you have a chance for anything you'd like to say about the outstanding work you're doing.
No, but I will prepare for next time.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure you'll be prepared.
And I will take the rest of the meeting the next time if we have extra time.
Okay. So is there any unfinished business that's hanging out there we need to address? Okay, not hearing anything. Is there anything, future items you want to have us put on the agenda, go to the executive committee? Not hearing anything else for the good of the team, good of the war in Ukraine, anything else? So I hear nothing else. Then thank you, everybody. Then I'm going to close the meeting, and you take care. We'll see you next month. And remember, no July, no August meeting. All right. Bye,
No
everybody.
July?
No, we're meeting in July, August.
Oh, okay, cool.
Thank you for clarifying that. I'm going to leave.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.